Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is quite literally a monumental shift in the global technology landscape. For years, the AI narrative has been pretty straightforward, right? Silicon Valley leads, and everyone else just sort of plays catch-up. Well, in mid-2026, that narrative totally fractured. We are looking at a massive structural shift in the global balance of technological power, and it was all triggered by a Beijing-based startup called Moonshot AI and the release of their new model, Kimi K3. So, think about this for a second. How exactly does one single open-weight model, built by a lab operating under the strictest hardware export controls in human history, manage to erase nearly $400 billion in implied market value from America's top AI leaders in just a matter of days? I mean, it sounds like the plot of a financial thriller, but it's exactly what went down in July 2026. To truly grasp the tech, we first need to understand the sheer, jaw-dropping scale of the financial stakes here.
Section 1. The $392 billion AI shock, a true market earthquake.
The financial world is calling it the Kimi shock. It was a market earthquake that literally forced a fundamental repricing of the entire AI economy. $392 billion. I really want that number to sink in for a moment. This wasn't some slow bleed over a fiscal year. No. This was the combined implied valuation wiped from America's absolute top AI leaders almost overnight. Basically, the market took one look at Kimi K3, looked back at the business models of Western AI giants, and just hit the panic button.
If we look at the specific breakdown, it's wild. Anthropic, they took a massive $232 billion hit to their implied pre-IPO valuation. OpenAI lost roughly $160 billion. And why? Well, because the multi-trillion-dollar valuations of these companies were built on one core assumption: that they held a total monopoly on frontier intelligence and could therefore just charge a huge premium for access to their proprietary closed systems. But when Kimi K3 dropped, investors suddenly realized that this so-called intelligence moat was actually incredibly vulnerable.
Section 2. Kimi K3, the disruptor, and a brand new AI paradigm.
So what actually caused this financial earthquake? Well, Moonshot AI didn't just take an old design and scale it up. They went in a completely new direction. They built a massive 2.8 trillion parameter model. It is actually the world's first open-weight model in the 3 trillion class. But it's not just huge. It features a 1 million token context window, meaning it can hold entire libraries of code or endless documentation in its working memory all at once. Plus, it has native visual understanding. It's essentially built from the ground up to think continuously and solve incredibly complex problems.
And the benchmarks? They are absolutely staggering. It hit 93.5% on GPQA Diamond. For context, that is an insanely difficult graduate-level reasoning test. But the real headline here comes from independent third-party evaluations on the front-end code arena. Kimi K3 jumped 17 places to secure the #1 spot globally. It outright beat top-tier proprietary models like Claude Fable 5 in 6 out of 7 domains. It proved once and for all that an open-weight model could completely dominate in complex agentic coding tasks.
Section 3. Bypassing the chip ban. Full stack resilience. Now you're probably wondering, how on earth did a Chinese lab achieve this level of frontier performance without access to the absolute best US hardware? Because remember, there are strict export controls in place. Well, the first part of the puzzle is something called knowledge distillation. Think of it a bit like a brilliant teacher and a highly efficient student. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars on brute force trial and error compute to teach a model from scratch, Chinese labs systematically feed complex queries to a highly advanced teacher model, which is often a Western model they access via an API. They then take the teacher's answers, its reasoning steps, its logic, and use all that data to train their own student model. It's essentially a clever way to just download the latent logic of Western models for a fraction of the cost.
Then there's the second massive innovation, the mixture of experts, or MOE architecture. So the crucial thing to remember is that Kimi K3 is huge, 2.8 trillion parameters. If it had to use all of those parameters for every single word it generated, it would require a totally impossible amount of computing power. But instead, MOE acts like this highly efficient routing system. Kimi K3 actually has 896 experts built into it. But for any given token it processes, it only activates 16 of them. It's extreme sparsity. And this maximizes the efficiency of the limited hardware they actually do have access to.
Since they couldn't just buy top-tier NVIDIA chips, they engineered their way around the problem step by step. First off, they transitioned over to domestic silicon, leaning heavily on hardware like Huawei's Ascend processors. Second, they used quantization-aware training. Now, that's just a highly technical way of saying they taught the model to maintain its core intelligence, even when running on less precise data formats, which bypasses the need for specialized chips. And third, rather than relying on one giant monolithic program, they deploy multi-agent swarms. We're talking hundreds of specialized sub-agents working in parallel, which makes older chips punch way above their weight class.
Section 4. Open versus closed models and their diverging strategies.
What we are seeing here is a really stark contrast in global strategies. It's essentially a tale of two entirely different deployment paradigms. The US strategy has pretty much been defined by closed models. Companies like OpenAI and Anthropic, they keep their systems proprietary, right? You pay a high subscription fee, you access it through their API, and your sensitive data runs on their servers. China, on the flip side, is heavily prioritizing adoption through open-weight models. They actually release the parameters of the model. This means developers anywhere in the world can download it, host it on their own private servers, and completely customize it. It's an adoption-first strategy specifically designed to build a massive global developer ecosystem.
Historically, these open models have acted like a giant deflationary force on the price of intelligence. I mean, Chinese models were often operating at a massive discount, sometimes literally 1/6 the price of equivalent US offerings. Now, it is worth pointing out that Kimi K3 launched with pricing that is roughly 1-to-1 with Anthropic's Sonnet series. So, Moonshot is kind of signaling that frontier-level open models now cost what frontier closed models cost. This means that the 10x cheaper era might be closing for the absolute top-tier models, but make no mistake, the pricing pressure on the broader market remains immense.
Section 5. Corporate migration and the hunt for cost efficiency. This whole paradigm shift, it's directly changing Western corporate strategies today. Think about a high-volume enterprise workload that processes roughly 100 billion tokens a month. Migrating from a top-tier proprietary model over to a self-hosted open model can save a company almost $1.5 million a year. That gap in the total cost of ownership is just impossible for chief financial officers to ignore.
Because of that huge cost gap, brands you definitely know are jumping ship. Corporate AI bills were basically spiraling out of control because employees were just using them without limits, a trend people started calling tokenizing. To avoid that massive sticker shock, companies like DoorDash are now using Moonshot AI to optimize their logistics. Airbnb's CEO even mentioned they're using Alibaba's Quen for customer service triage. A San Francisco startup called Lindy ditched Anthropic entirely and moved to DeepSeek's model for coding. They are all aggressively shifting their high-volume, lower-level agentic work to the most cost-effective solution available.
But hey, it's not actually just about the money. It's also about something called technology sovereignty. Say you are an industrial giant like Siemens, and you're dealing with highly sensitive factory automation data. You probably don't want to send your proprietary data off to some third-party cloud provider in Silicon Valley. Open-weight models give these companies absolute control. They can just download the weights, lock them down securely on their own internal servers, and customize them to their exact protocols. In the enterprise world, that level of control is a massive competitive advantage.
Section 6. A narrowing global AI race and a new bipolar order.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, the era of totally uncontested US supremacy, that's definitively over. Take a look at the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, which independently evaluates 189 different models worldwide. Kimi K3 scored a score of 57. That officially ranks it 4th in the entire world. It sits right behind the absolute best closed models from the US, and actually ahead of several major iterations like GPT 5.5. The gap between open and closed, and frankly between East and West, is no longer a gap. We are looking at a neck-and-neck contest.
I really want to share this incredible anecdote from the sources before we wrap up, because it shows we are moving way past AI that just writes emails. In a recent demonstration, Kimi K3 was left running continuously for 48 hours. Using standard open source tools, it autonomously designed a functioning, simulated 4 square millimeter inference chip, no human holding its hand. We are entering the era of recursive AI, where artificial intelligence is literally capable of designing the very hardware that will run the next generation of artificial intelligence. It's autonomous, agentic, swarms at work, and it's wild. Which brings us to the final question we have to ask ourselves. The Kimi K3 watershed has proven, beyond a doubt, that the AI stack is no longer a monopoly. We are staring down a new bipolar order in intelligence. As the technology transitions from simple little chatbots to these powerful, autonomous, agentic swarms, and as the open source movement continues to democratize access to frontier logic, what happens next? The old playbook has been completely rewritten. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more like this.